Welcome, everybody. Thank you for your patience while I was a minute or two late here, just trying to get all the tech to work and do its thing. Welcome to the Just Jump In live stream. Tonight we'll have a little bit of a different take on it. If you have taken the time to watch the description, you'll understand how it's a little bit different tonight, but I'll still do some updates on where I'm at. And as always, shout out in the chat that you're here. Welcome, Gopher Girl. You don't get the cookie because you are an employee. So employees are exempt, no cookies for us. So I have to give it to Mike for jumping in just after Gopher Girl. And boy, am I going to pay for that later. Hey, Randy, welcome in. Nice to see you in here. Split Rock, Tom, welcome in. Mom, nice to see you. So if you remember, I worked on the display for my mom, and she used it at her show, and she had a really good show. It might not have been for the display, but she did have a good show. She had the train table up as well. That I previously worked on, and so she's already tasked me with another project. If you remember, I made the display case. The display case was a little small, but it generated some interest as a display case for miniatures. So I'm working on that. I did a prototype of it, and it was a little bit tall for what she needs, so I'll continue to work on that and get another project for her done. So besides, you get paid as much as my aunt gets paid working with my mom, so you get paid very well. Anyway, so what I thought I would do tonight, our YouTube friend N-Scale Train Boy, it does every year some kind of fundraiser for type 1 diabetes. It's something he suffers from, and he's looking to eradicate it. And so he is taking donations, and does marathon live streams. Last year, I think he tried a 24-hour live stream. He had some help with some folks, some other folks as well. This time he's doing a 12-hour live stream. I think he's entering his last hour now. But based on our car situation, we're trying to get into another car, and so that's put a kibosh on our finances for the moment. So I couldn't donate anything to him. So what I thought I would do tonight is a little bit of a tribute for him, give you all a link to information about the disease, and also a link to donate. His secondary goal, his initial goal is $1,000. His secondary goal is 2,000 now, and I just hopped over from his live stream, and I think he was at somewhere around 1,250. So use the link in the chat or in the description, or go over to his channel and donate. He's doing some giveaways. He's obviously an N-scaler, but he's doing some N-scale, HO scale giveaways for those who donate. So I thought what I would do is kind of bring you all on a journey of my of some of my work with weathering, because that's what he did. That's his specialty. I think he may be going into business to do that soon, but that's his specialty. So I thought I would take you on a journey of some of my weathering, and to honor him, give you an update of um, other things that are other things that I'm working on as well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Um, so so going back to the car situation, um, the um, the car was considered totaled. It really was the back right end that got smashed in. They considered it totaled. We got a really nice kind of settlement on it. I think we're lucky to have had that. It's going to be a really nice down payment on another car, or maybe a down payment and some initial monthly payments, whatever we can, finance. And so we have to go through, we have to find a car, then go through the financing process and figure out what we can do with that. We're looking for the same type of car because um, Gopher Girl feels that she came out of it safe enough because of the car. And we had a Toyota Sienna. It was a 2015. We bought it in 2016, low mileage. It was a really nice car. We got a fantastic deal. Unfortunately, new Toyota Siennas are about, I don't know, 70. Well, I'm sorry. They're not quite double what new ones were at the time. I think new ones at the time, 10 years ago were probably in the $35,000 range, and they're now in the $50,000 range. So we're not going to be able to get a new one, but we'll get a one with probably some decent mileage on it. But we'll look for one that's not got a lot going on with it, and see if we can get a good 3, 4, or 5 years out of it. Gopher Girl. So she was she was complaining about some headaches and things, and we finally convinced her to go to the doctor. She went to the doctor, got diagnosed with what you would think you'd get: whiplash and a concussion. So she's recovering from that. So make sure you give her some well wishes, and she'll get better soon, as long as she does her physical therapy and occupational therapy and everything. So we'll get that going real shortly. So that's where we are. So been in the house a lot lately. Haven't been able to get out anywhere. I do have to go ironically renew my license, and I have an appointment on Monday for that. So we are very lucky. We have a transportation system here in the Southwest Metro of Minnesota, or Minneapolis area, where we can take local rides for a very small cost. So we're not having to Uber everywhere for $35 to go down the street. So we keep moving on with that. And then so the next update I have for you is what I've been working on. I shared this in Twin Cities Division Group, but I've been moving along. Well, that's the other one. I've been moving along with the shelves of the passenger cars. And so last time I showed you the doors, or the doorways that I was creating. So what I decided to do after all the manual work and everything, I decided I was going to continue my work with 3D printing. And so I prototyped the doors for the center doors for the cars, which is what I'm cutting out. And I went through 8 prototypes, or technically 9 prototypes. So where is that one? So there's a bend in the bottom of the door, so it's kind of angled in the bottom inward. So I thought I was going to have a lot of trouble figuring that out, but just to get started with dimensions and everything, I just did a flat door to start with, using the proper dimensions for the model, um, which didn't to start with. My cuts were good this time around, but it was still kind of on the small side. So there's a couple things that happen when you are prototyping. Even if you use exact measurements, printers have some tolerances, and they have some settings that you can use to deal with those tolerances, but they're not always exact to the measures of the CAD drawing. They're very millimeters off. And so that's something I had to deal with. And so it just was more sanding to get these doors to fit, and so that'll be individual with each car. But so I started with the flat one, got the general size, got the look, made sure it had some scribing in the middle of it to ensure it looked like the doors. Get the windows right. The windows were going to be different than these square ones. They're going to be longer. So to get those right. And then I started working on the bend in the bottoms, and you really can't see well here. As I was prototyping, I tried both nozzles I have. I have a 0.4 millimeter nozzle and a 0.2, and of course I was going to go with the 0.2, but I really want to see, basically where I could get with it. And it just, you just need finer lines to get that bend, so it doesn't look like this kind of is a little bit shiny, but it doesn't look like lines like that. That's what we want to try to get rid of. The other thing that I needed to work on was getting the door to look right in the seam, so I had to go a little bit thicker with the door. And it was hundredths of millimeters, but it made a big difference. Then the other thing was with the bend in it, it was going to create a gap, a light gap, and unrealistic gap in the doorway. So I was thinking, could I build something up on the edge here, and have it fill that gap instead of trying to build something onto the car body? And so I then came up with these kind of edges on the outside. They're very tiny, very hard to see, but they were filling the gap. The trouble I was having with that is, there is a, it wasn't that one. It was, let's go with this one here. The trouble with that is it was actually leaning the door forward a little bit. It wasn't even because I wasn't thinking right, because that was going to the edge, and that was supposed to pop through a little bit, but wasn't popping through. So for that to pop in and stay in, it was angling the door. So I got rid of those, got the right thickness 8 or 9 later, and I have it here on both sides. I also updated the size of the door. You still have ledges, a little bit of ledges here, but that's as tight as I could get it. Now I could sand that down a little bit, and try and get rid of some of the edges. The trouble with 3D printing filaments is they're very hard to sand. They don't sand like this plastic. But I could do that to just get enough of it to look just flat enough. Maybe try to use the higher grit sandpaper to polish it. So, and then the next steps that I'll have to do is I'll have to come back in and fill these gaps back in, more putty, more sanding, but we'll get that to look right now that we get the doors in there. So that I worked on that quite a bit at the end of on the weekend and in the beginning of this week. And now I can print those as many times as I need for as many cars as I need if I'm crazy enough to find these shells and keep doing it. However, I'll pull up this other shell that I'm working on, and you say, why is there only one hole and why is there a lot of crap on the doorway? Well, I got these completely wrong as far as centering. So this one's too far off to the right, but that one's more done. And so I may just mirror this. And if you're not looking too closely, it's not that far off. I could probably go with that. This one, those window pieces of styrene popped out a couple times, and I've gone over and over again with the putty after gluing them back in. And so those will have to get sanded. I'll have to refine this a little bit. So the other problem was this door. The reason this is covered up is way off. It's all the way over to the left. I don't know what I did, but that's me in measuring. And what you'll notice in here is these little round pieces. So when I started drilling, you kind of scribe the edge of it. You kind of have small drill holes and scribe the edge, and that helps later. But then you take in 1/8 drill bit and drill some holes close together, and then you kind of gnaw at it and then sand it down. It's a very tedious thing. But I noticed my error, and there were lots of holes in here. So I went and found some 1/8 styrene rod and filled them in and glued those back in so I could fill this up and put some putty back here, over puttied it up here. We'll get that sanded down, and then we should have the surface we need where we can try and center that door. So this one has a lot of repair. This one was way more successful. Usually, it's funny. Usually my first tries are way more successful than subsequent ones. It's like me in basketball. I am not a good basketball player, but I'm way better when I don't think about a shot. You put a hand in my face if we're playing on the playground, and you put a hand in my face and I'm not looking at the net, but I know where it's at, I'm going to hit it with a shot. But if you leave it open, you put me at the foul line or something, I start thinking about it, I'll miss the whole backboard or the whole thing. So that's kind of the same way here. Is this isn't my first try because I did the cab car. But this was much better than the cab car. If you look at these up close, one of them is, I think it's this one, is a little bit more angled. It wasn't completely straight. This side came out really well. And these are not in there. They fit in there and they fit solid. They'd stay in probably if you don't handle it. But I'll have to get them glued in at some point. But lightning never strikes twice for me on the good side. So I have this one that I made a complete mess of. There are a couple other things I was working on. I found one of my favorite people that does HO scale stuff on Thingiverse. He gives them away the files away for free. There was a lighthouse, and Gopher Girl loves lighthouses, so I was printing that. So I have that to work on. But he also did a Merchant's Row type building, just like the Walders. He did a bunch of them. And so I've had this for a while. A Gopher Girl did the coloring. And I originally got the the sides done and weathered, but it was the front that needed coloring and everything. So I went off her color palette. I had to create some of the colors, and I don't know if this will do it justice, but this is going to be my mom's shop. I already put a sign a while ago on the side that's going to go over here for her shop, for lovely things in childhood memories, dollhouse miniatures. Then the only thing that he had designed for this was window pieces, and I didn't really get good using clear filament. Didn't really get good window pieces that looked really kind of okay. So I went a little bit on my own and I designed something on my own, making this basically a temple, a Jewish temple in the middle. And it's hard to see on here, but if you look at it up close, it has the Star of David raised, but then it has 3 words on here. It has, in Hebrew, it has it is peace on the left here, love on the right, and family in the middle. And so if I can get some really good pictures of it, because it's not, this doesn't focus well enough for it. Let me see if it, well, yeah, it doesn't focus well enough for it. So I'll try and get some pictures and put it online. But I got some painting done. That's all 3D printed for those little signs. I had to, these are actually solid in here. The tolerance on those is really, really solid. So I don't have to do any, I just had to get them just to fit. So I had to keep reducing them, but I got them nice and solid in there. No glue needed or anything, which we know I'm sensitive to all the glues now. And then I picked a random date. I don't know why I picked this date, but this is also a 3D printed sign that went in the middle of this piece here, just some gray and black. And then this was these were hand painted. I spray painted primer, and then I ended up hand painting that, which I don't love to do. It didn't matter much with the gray that I used on here. It was a stone gray. This I did a while ago, and so I can finish that up now and get that. And this is there. I have a little downtown area on my switching layout that I practice switching on. So this can go in the little downtown area. And so we'll finish that up. So that was another project. All right, let me see if I can. Ooh, okay, we're out as far as we can go. So thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. So as I was saying, N-Scale Train Boy let me pull this up too. So again, links to the diabetes information and donation stuff are in the all right, are in the description. See if I can just also, if you've never gone to his channel before, you can visit his channel there. Like I said, he likes to do weathering. One of the things, he spent about 4 hours today weathering a car. He was using acrylics, which was interesting because I haven't I've seen some of that done. I've seen parts of weathering, but he basically weathered almost the whole car with that. So I thought I would take you kind of like on a journey here. Let me see if I can get all my things to work right. Bear with me, because I had this up before. I had it working. It always works when you test it. Let's see. I know I'm sharing it already. Got to go to the right page. So I'm still learning this with the scenes and everything. All right, let's try this. Okay. There we go. We got something here. All right. And let's do this. I'm just having a good old time doing this. Let's try this. All right. So, this is N scale. This was my very first weathering attempt. And what I had the pleasure of doing was one of the first NMRAX events. They had who we used to call the Mudfather, Ralph Renzetti, a gentleman from Canada who was prolific weathering model railroader, and he built other things too, not just model railroading. He recently passed away, but he was helping NMRAX doing basically a clinic, and what they did was they were going to comment on and help people with their weathering. Well, this being my first weathering job, I didn't expect much, but I apparently got it in fast enough that it was the first one that he went to during the NMRX segment. And so I thought that was really cool. He obviously was easily picked out that this was a first attempt, and I had commented in there too that it was a first attempt. And I can't even tell you if I remember what I used on it. But this was when I had my N scale layout, and what it was, I didn't have the bottom for it or anything. That's why I did this. And I had a section that I considered kind of an urban decay section of the layout, and you had all these guys around, working on building something. I have a Cato track. It's hard to see back there, but it's right back behind it for where I had running trains. So I had put this out just as I don't know, their work area. But that was my very first weathering job that I did. And so I'm proud of it because I did it. I followed my own advice and jumped in and did it. I don't know how good it is. And Ralph didn't think it was very good. He was very nice about it, though. So, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up some of, I'm going to turn that thing off. Okay, and I'm going to pull up some of the other things I've weathered, and not in any specific order. I love this car. So this was just me trying to do something with a bunch of garbage I had. These are the tubes that dog poop bags are wrapped around. So I found this car, a picture of this car. They happen to have it at local hobby shop. So I got the car, and the things that I did was, again, it was the load, the empty load. So the wood planks that would be between here, and these are um, wires, your feeder wires, basically. But the weathering, this was a stark white. So the weathering on here was a wash. So this is the first time I really was trying to use a wash. And I got it nice and dirty because this was very stark white. Then the other thing I tried to use and realized how much I didn't like them was oils. I tried using oils on the wheels and the trucks, and then on the sides. Um, it dirtied them up, but I'm so impatient. And if you're impatient and you want stuff to dry and you don't allow it to dry, um, then you get into problems. Um, have a good night, Mike. It was nice to see you in here. Um, hope the cabin is treating you well. So that's how I weathered this, and I handled this so much. All of the oil paints and all the oils that I used on the wheels rubbed off on my fingers, so it doesn't. It looks kind of dry and a little bit weather, but not really. But that was an attempt at weathering, a simple attempt at weathering. Um, so that was one. So I learned a lesson with these. So these are Caterpillar vehicles that I got at Menards, and this was some light weathering, and I used mostly the taco sauce. I used the Tamiya panel liner with these to darken in the grates, to darken um, around the wheels, around the treads, um, and then got some. I don't know. I think I did just use panel liner on that, and again, it probably would help if it was a little bit closer up, or maybe focused in there. So what I learned was, you see how that's opaque, how you can't really see well through it. Well, that was clear plastic before, but when I went to seal this with dull coat, kind of forgot that it would be a good idea to tape the windows. So now you can't see out of them. Here you can see a little bit here, what the back looks like with not getting sprayed. So that was a lesson, but a minor job there. This one, I tried to do, again, panel liner all through here. I tried to do some panel liner in different areas on this one. A lot of it came off. And then I used some, I don't know, I think I used some powders or some chalks on the wheels. That didn't stay well, especially when I sprayed it. And again, was clear. Can see a little bit through there, but no longer clear. The only thing that really stayed nicely on this one is the dirt, and so I used the weathering effects that I used on the tank. Excuse me. I used the Vallejo weathering effects and got some griminess on there and some usage. Now, if you look at any pictures of these used, they take care of them. They wash them down. These come out to work sites pretty pristine, so it's not really accurate unless it's in use at the time. But if this is being stored somewhere, you would have it cleaned off. But that was some accessories that I weathered. Then the next couple I weathered just to practice. I didn't use pictures to guide me, which are really helpful. This one I over weathered, sort of on purpose, sort of not. But mainly it's was griminess on here. One of the things I've been trying to practice is the streaks going down, and I think that got overdone here. Let's see if we can let's get it in frame. And then if we look at this side, it's much more subtle. A little bit of darkness over here. A little bit of darkness along here, but not as much, not around these grooves and everything. Much more subtle. I think that's just dust on top, but I went a little overboard trying to get this done. And like I do often is, instead of trying to find a way to get it off, I kind of layer it on and say, okay, I want to try and fix this. And then I end up with something like this. So that was interesting. That was an interesting result. Not a great one, but still looks like it's used. This one was much better. This one was much more restraint on this one, where let me see if so. Yeah, that's going to be too much of a glare on that. You can see here that this one I used some powders on, and you can see that I did them around the grabs that were on here, again around the door hinges and around the ladders. You can see this one's a little heavier in here. This again is this one a little bit heavier on this side. Still, this has this slides, and this doesn't have any kind of wear and tear from the sliding of the door. That would make that a little bit better. Here you can see that, well, unfortunately, again, the camera just bugs the crap out of me. But I did weather the wheels on here as well. So I like this one. This one came out, this was super shiny plastic, and I took quite a bit of dull coat to it to get it flat. And this looks appropriately weathered to me. Again, didn't really go off of a picture on this one. At a train show, I got Cato put out these 3 packs of cars, and from a guy who was handled estate sales, had these. I had again, they came with 3. They were $10 for them. They were a kit, so I had to put them together, and they weren't necessarily simple. They weren't very hard, but they weren't simple either. So I decided I was going to try weathering these as well. I don't recall. Well, no, that's not true. There was. I did go off of one photo, a photo of one car, because I remember this was a mess that I made. It looks okay, but it wasn't this grimy over there. But you can see here I focused on grime in different areas. So I was focusing on grime down around there, up at the top. Then again, up at the top here. And so that one didn't come out so bad. And here again, trying to have some semblance of how it should actually go. You can see how stark these spots were versus these. These are more washed out spots. These are powders again on here. Like I said, I got comfortable with powders. They were easy to work with. I did some of the bottom on these two. This one I didn't. Interesting that I didn't do that, but I did some on the bottom of there to get some grime down there too. You'd think whatever they were carrying and dumping through these chutes would make these areas dirty no matter what, from not only from it coming out of these chutes, but any kind of dust that was coming up from what it was shooting into would have kind of plastered that area with that. So just a couple more that I've weathered. Let's go to this one. So this one is, I had just gone through this in one of the previous live streams. This is just one of the techniques of two I'm trying that I'm going to be doing a video on, where I'm actually practicing the techniques or trying the techniques out. It's something I've always wanted to do, and I was hoping that, at some point I would have the financial stability to do that. That hasn't come to fruition, so I haven't tried it too much, but I got each of the cars for $4 at a recent train show. So I tried this technique, and it was basically like a yellow ochre base, and then some, umber on it, umber color on it, and wash on it, and it looks pretty decent. If you stare at it too much, it really looks yellow. But I think on camera it looks like wood and used wood basically. And I think if you have it on a layout, it's going to look good if you're using it. So I did that. Now, the last two I have. I actually was, there is another guy named Dan who is also a weathering guy on YouTube, and I never remember his channel name. And I should have had it ready. So he's Dan's Railroad 2011 is the name of his channel. Let me get that for you. He's really good at it too. So I would check him out. So he did heavily weathered cars, and why I wanted to try what he did was he used some oils, and he combined that with some acrylics and powders, and so he did a really big job on this. So I wanted to try and do my best to see if I can do something like that. I got them weathered really heavy. The other thing I forgot to mention, because Tom is in here too, we've had a number of times at our Twin Cities Division Skills Days weathering tables, and I was working with him a couple of skills days ago, and he was showing me how to use a couple things, and I was going to go through some of the tools that we use. But one of the things I was trying to do is do splatter, and I was doing it wrong, and he showed me how to do that. And so I've tried that on a few things, and I've done a lot better. So I just wanted to shout that out since he was in the chat. But here you go. Here's some a couple of heavily weathered cars. The things that I struggle with when I use acrylics, they're very stark, they're not blended as well, and so they have very stark lines. And if you let them, they dry quickly. So if you let them dry, then it's hard to get them. You can try and get them wet again because they're water based. But when you're trying, I've never been able to do the rust spots really well and make them look like rust spots. And what Dan did was he would do the acrylic, but then over top he would do the oil and then streak the oil. And I definitely couldn't get this done on here. I did do some good things with this, but not all great. So you can see the starkness of the acrylic there. But he started at the top with the acrylics, and then he brought them down. And I use water to kind of keep them wet and move them a little bit. And then I tried to do the spots, but you can see these are really stark spots. And I had a tendency when I added the oils that I would really wash them out with the thinner, the mineral spirits would really wash them out, and so they would really disappear. But I got it. I would say for my skill level, I think I did okay. Here, I did the bottoms as well. Now this is just so you're aware, this is a 3D printed car. So if I were to get it close, well, of course this camera won't help. If I were to get it close enough, there are print lines on here. But again, this was solely printed. You can maybe see the lines on here. This was solely done to do the weathering, to try and print the car out for one. This is not my design. But it's a nice car. And then you can see some big fingerprints in there from me handling the car and not having it dry. And that's me not being patient enough. But I was focusing on the outside here. I think I probably touched that because that's almost like there's no paints there. Here's the second one, and I was trying to do from light to like really dark and heavy on there. So again, it looks like it. I just want to do an up close look on that. But that's a journey down some of the weathering that I've done. I've done some small bits of weathering on buildings, like for instance, on the sides of these, you can see some, again, it comes out very stark on the camera, but you have some weathering over top of a sign and some streaking down there that I did. So I've done some of that type of stuff too, but these were my adventures into weathering, and I'll continue to work on it and see if I can get myself a little more realistic with it. But let's talk about some of the things I've used. So we talked about oil paints. So there's a couple of things. I did just buy, and I haven't dug into them. I showed them on a previous live stream that I found at a Goodwill store, a bunch of oil paints to weather with. But when I stumbled upon these, probably on social media or something, these are a couple years old. They've been out for a couple years, but um, Ammo by Mig put out these oil brushers, and these are basically mascara bottles and brushes. And you can use them. You can use toothpicks. You can use, whatever you need. If you need even a smaller tip for them, you can use that. But um, convenience of this was a pack that um, was rust based, so it had a rust color, it had a red primer color, and a dark brown color. Um, and so I've used those a few times. It takes practice with oils, and you've got to leave it alone. And that's my worst part, is I can't leave it alone. But I will continue to try to use oil paints, because most of the people that do weathering do some kind of oil paint weathering, because it looks really good for grease and oil stains and other liquid stains. Of course, one of the things you want to use is sponges for some of the weathering that you want to sponge on. And I buy, or have bought, and I haven't used up two of these, but it was a 2-pack I bought for cents on the dollar at like Menards or Home Depot, and you just tear it off or cut it off, and then this is very strong, and you don't have to be cheap like me. You could go to Michael's, and they sell a variety pack of spongy materials that look like they came from the sea, the way they're sponges and different kinds, stuff like this, and then all kinds of different patterns. So you could spend some money and get some things, but you don't need to. Get real cheap and get these. For when you're using washes, and I'm doing this in no particular order. You can make your own washes, or you can go out, and there's a couple of companies that make washes. The flat car that won the flat car that I did that won the merit award at the convention and best in show, I ended up using this creosote black, which is mostly used for railroad ties and bridge parts and things like that. That's what I had to lighten up on that one. But that was this Hunterline stain. I just couldn't come up with the word, and it's right there. It says stain on it. He's got tons of colors. It's husband wife team. They're in Canada. They have had a U.S. distributor, so it's easy to get. I actually got these two at a train show in New Jersey, at a Greenberg train show. Really cheap. I think they're usually like $17.95 in that range, and I got them for $13. And the guy said, he'll ship them. If they're bought, that he doesn't charge more than that. I don't know if that is a couple of years ago. It might be a little more now. But great deal. There's Best does a line of these stains, and there's another company or two that do the stains. You can also do stains very simply with India ink and like drops of India ink and alcohol, and you can make your own stain if you want. But I wanted to try these. I had seen a number of clinics. He attended the New Tracks modeling shows as as a fan of them and to learn from them, and one of us basically. So then he would present on there and things like that. And so through that kind of thing, I wanted to try those, so I tried them, and so I've used them, and I did the India ink and alcohol, and that works well too. Then being frugal and everything, I found these Artist Loft pastel chalks work great. And it was really cheap when I got this, so I got all of these, and I didn't know what I needed, but you probably can see these are, other than a little rips, these are all wrapped up. I've used the white for fading, and then you see like that one's used, that one's used, that one's pretty used. Those have been used for weathering. They work well. If you're dull coating, though, it's hard to get that to stick. You have to kind of overdo it a little bit with these regular pastel chalks. A lot of people like the pan pastels because they say that they stick well when you dull coat. They don't weigh. But so, and what just happened? Give me a second here. Let's see if we adjust. I lost my camera for some reason. And it's showing it's the correct camera. I've got it working on both devices. And I can't seem to get it to fix. So what do I do? And we're going to try. There we go. We had to reset it. That's the first time I've had that come up. No, I don't think that's the first time I've had it come up with that camera on other services, but the first time this did that. And yeah, Tom, I like the Hunter line also. It was a little, like I said, it was a little dark, so it was a little shocking. That sienna was really red, though. I didn't like that as much, but I didn't have a lot to use that on. So I sort of, what did I do with it? I kind of sort of graduated to other chalks to try. These used to be called AIM powders, but they were bought by Monroe Models. Monroe Models is I think he's listed as Sauk Rapids, or maybe that's his home. I don't know, but St. Cloud, right near each other. So it's kind of a local company, a Minnesota company. So that's kind of cool. But I bought a pack of these at some point, and I don't think I'll run out of them. But it was kind of the, and I used like the pastel chalk. I've used the chalky white again to fade things. But these are all good ones. You have the rust looks like rust. What I'll do with these on cars is I'll use paint. So I'll use like a chocolate kind of brown paint or a burnt sienna, burnt umber or other muddy looking paint. And then I'll mix in some of the medium earth or dark earth or grimy black into whatever color I'm using to give it some actual griminess, so it looks like dirt. It's not just painted on. Let's see if I can. Again, I don't know if I'll be able to show you this with the camera, how it comes out, but it gives it a texture. So I've used the come on, behave, or not. All kinds of technical difficulties today. I don't know why this one's being so stubborn, but I'll also show you a tool to go along with this. So let's see if I can get this one. Maybe I'll turn this light on here. Oh, nope. That's a little better. See if I can get it to focus a little bit. It really, really is. I need somebody to. I need Gopher Girl to make thousands and millions of dollars so I can have better equipment here. Oh, that. You can kind of see the griminess with this. But this is a combination of acrylic paint and powder, and using these powders. I probably use the rust on it, not the earth. Here's less griminess, but more powder in here. And so I let it clump, or I mix it just a little bit so it clumps. If you mix it too much, the powder will just dissipate in the thicker paint. But you can see a little bit of that texture on there. But it's a really nice effect, at least up close and not on camera. And so I use these powders for it. So I've really enjoyed using the powders. Here's one I've used quite a bit. Another one used quite a bit, but I got these years ago. There you go. You can see they're getting used. They're all getting used, but they're not getting used. I'll have them for a long time. I've had them for a few years, so I'll have them for a few more. So we'll fix that later. You can. That's right. You can, and that's basically if you overmix it when you're doing that to the wheels, or you're going to do that to the wheels, you would end up doing the same thing. And yes, because they're pigments, so you absolutely can do that. That's a good call out. Here is, for those that may not have seen them before, here's the taco sauce that we call taco sauce, or panel liner. I have a dark brown and a black. Not much difference between the colors, but it's an enamel, and it just creeps through grooves and ridges and things, or around ridges. So for instance, to do this grate on here, that's all panel liner in there. And then you just with mineral spirits, after it dries, shortly after it dries with mineral spirits, you can take it off from around if it gets out of where you want. But basically this was all yellow, and I got some panel liner in these lines here, and that allowed it to flow and give it some more definition here on this side too. Yeah, I've got to position my lights better too, but you can see the lines that it uses. On here a little bit too, you can see that. And I didn't clean this one up as much. This is all panel liner in here. These are grooves in here. So for wheels, this is one before I was 3D printing. Yes, Mom, you could do that. I'm glad you're able to do that. So there, Micromark sells a plastic contraption. Looks a lot different than this, but it's basically the same thing, where you can put the wheels in and protect the wheels that are contacting the track, and get those. It'll protect this and allow you to paint that or do whatever you want to that. And a few years back, I saw this guy make this suggestion. It was a clinic, and he was in the audience of a clinic, and he made the suggestion saying that he had created it. And unfortunately, I don't remember his name, and I don't know if I got this is the one that it looks like that he did. Looks very different than what Micromark sells. But I found somebody who put this together, and I have different colors just because there was different color filament used, and it was actually made for me by a family friend who had a printer, but it has one for 33-inch wheels, one for 36-inch wheels, and they have a really nice tolerance to them. And they work well, and so you have this in here, and you have the other 33-inch wheel holder, so you can do the other, so you can get both sides done, and they stay in there. So when you're painting with whatever medium you use, it protects the part of the wheels that are going to contact the track, and you can get whatever you're painting or whatever medium again you're using to do that. And you can certainly tell the difference between 33 and 36 inches. It's tenths or thousandths of millimeters, but there's definitely a difference in there. So the difference, even though there's a big number on there. It's designed to be tight on there. So it's a really, really good tool. And so I was happy to find this and be able to print it, because I couldn't remember who it was, and he had mentioned the file and everything. And this was early on when I was learning about 3D printing and stuff. So that's a tool I use to help me paint wheels. And so I was watching during dinner time. I was watching N-Scale Train Boys live stream on the TV. And you can even see the chat that's going by usually on the TV. And you could pull it up if you wanted to chat in here and watch this on the TV. You could pull it up on your iPad and chat on the iPad, and then watch on the TV. So those are just a couple of the things that I've used for weathering purposes. Again, I have tons of acrylic paints, so that I could use those. And I've collected several burnt umbers. to be one that's used a lot, so I have a lot of those. I used, in place of that, before I was able to get a hold of the burnt umbers, I've been using this chocolate brown. This is almost empty. But yeah, so those are just, like I said, some of the things that I've used to do my own weathering. If you're using oils, you need thinner, odorless thinner, or mineral spirits. So Tom, everything's a happy accident with my mom. So he introduced me to this, but again, money's money. And so looking for, I have a drop left in here. When I finish this out, I got from Menards, I got this big thing, so I won't run out of it anymore. And I'll just fill up the small bottle to use on the workbench. But this will help break up the oils, oil paints when you're and things like this. So when you spread this out, it's very easily going to go outside of the panel lines, and you just have to wait for it to dry a little bit, and then you add, like with a very tiny brush or Q-tips or something, you add the thinner and you're able to wipe away that stuff. You just got to be careful not to wipe away the panel liner that's inside the panels, which could happen. I use the panel liner. I bought these really, really cheap little cars. I don't have them upstairs. They're down on my modules downstairs. But they were just these little plastic cheapy cars. And I so I use the panel liner to make them look like doors and handles and things like that. And they were so small that, and I wasn't used to this brush yet. This is a pretty small brush. It really does a good job. Or it's just, it's really small, but it very easily gets outside of panel lines. So just to, what the heck happened here? Here we go again with this. Let's try this again. Let's see if we can get our camera back. Sorry about that, folks. So just to kind of show you, and it doesn't help to have a shaky hand like I do, but you basically take the panel liner and you can just touch it and it'll flow itself down. I have it leaning down so it flows itself, but you can see a little tiny bit got on the edge there. And it'll flow multiple ways too sometimes. Let's see. You give it a second, it can flow, and it just depends on what medium it's on. If it's on something really slick, this was sprayed with the dull coat, so it's not as slick. So you might have to do a little bit more work. But then you have these little drops that got on the outside. Now it's really tempting to go in and wipe it off. And what did I just do with that stuff? It's really tempting to do that, but you end up, the mineral spirits are intended to kind of to actually scrub it. And let me get a smaller brush so you can use one of these too. but you can, when it does dry. So I'm doing this long before it dries, but you can go in and kind of clean it up. So you see it's picking it up on its own, but you may have to wipe it down too. And again, you may want to wipe it with something as well, because you're not getting it all off. Now, I got this brush into that groove and it picked it right up, and that's why you want it to dry. It would take a little more to pick it up than doing it right away like this. This isn't the best way to do it, but I wanted to show you basically what you do with it. But that's panel liner, and it'll give definition to and why it's called panel liner. It's the military or aircraft modelers use it for wings and the panels on a plane. That's why it's called panel liner. Let's see here. So let me go to here for a second. Stop sharing that for a sec. Just want to go into. So again, I just wanted to do something a little different because every once in a while, don't tell anybody, I like to do good, and I like N Scale Train Boy's channel, and he's done this multiple years. He's obviously affecting him. I've said in the past that if people donate money and want to designate a charity, if they donate money to the channel, that I would, split whatever they donated and give it to charity as well. I still would like to do something like that. I'd like to be able to try the things you want me to try. And so if anybody ever wants to donate anything, I would give that commitment that I wouldn't use all of it for the channel. I would also use it for charity as well. But because I couldn't give him the money this time around, I did give him a little in years past. But I want to make sure we're solvent and we get a car, because we both have jobs that require us occasionally to drive places for work. So we need to take care of that. And so I thought that I would use this opportunity to promote the awareness for type 1 diabetes and give folks the opportunity to go out and donate if it's a cause they believe in, or if they like him and want to help him out. Finding a cure for it would certainly help him out. And he did this today because it's considered World Diabetes Day, and I thought that was a great thing. And he's already given away a couple of his cars that he's weathered, and so if you donate, you fill out a couple extra things on a Google form, and you are able to you're able to be entered into his drawings, and he does the wheel and shouts out who won and connects with them to get them the car that they won. And again, he'll be doing it on he'll be doing more on Monday. If you use hashtag GameOverT1D, you'll find a bunch of videos and a bunch of topics and a bunch of live streams about trying to eradicate type 1 diabetes. And I totally just wanted people to show up for live stream. So my thumb had some Conrail stuff because I'm interested in that for the achievement program stuff that I'm doing and the layout that I'm eventually doing. I didn't have any Conrail stuff to talk about, but I thought I'd kind of get people to come take a look at that anyway. That's basically that's basically where I'm at this week. I hope that you enjoyed this look at weathering and weathering rolling stock, and hope that I gave you some tools and things to try on your own as well. And I hope that you also think about a cause like his, or any cause that needs your help. With that, I'm going to say, just jump in and have a great weekend, everybody. And thank you for stopping by. And again, check out N-Scale Train Boy's channel as well and the work he does online. He just recently graduated from college, and so he's trying to get his life started, and so I'll help him out. But otherwise, everybody have a fantastic weekend, and I will see everybody next week. Bye now.